Hi everyone, welcome to the Coding Channel. Today is the 5th episode of our Java tutorial series for beginners. And in this episode, we are going to talk about input and message dialog in Java. This and more when we come back. In our previous episode, we've talked about the console input and output. Now, in this episode, we will be talking also about the Java input and output, but this time in a form of dialog box. So if we're going to get the user input, we will be using an input dialog. And if we want to display an output, we will be using a message dialog. Now, for us to start, let me show you the sample run of our source code for this episode. So basically, we are going to create a student grade wherein we are going to ask the user to enter the name and then the student ID, for example, and then the prelims, midterm, and finals, and then we will compute the average of the 3 terms for us to have the final grade. Okay, so let me show you this one now. Okay, so for instance, so this is an example of an input dialog. Okay, so there is a default OK and cancel button. We have the text box here, and then we can modify the text. For example, enter student name. We have a default icon, which is the question message icon, and then we have the default text on the title bar, which is the input, and then the close button. Okay, now for instance, we are going to prompt the user to enter a student name. So for example, I'll be using the name of one of our new subscriber, for example, Kyle Ison. So shout out to you, bro. I hope you're doing well. Okay, so enjoy watching this episode, and I hope you will learn something. Okay, so and then for instance, the student ID, so 2021-001. Okay, and then okay. And then this time, we will be asking the user to enter the prelim grade. Okay, and take note, if you have noticed, that there is a default value in our text box. So later, I will show you how to do it. Okay, so for example, the prelim grade, so this one is having a decimal point. Okay, that's 90.7. For instance, click OK. And then for the midterm, let's say we have 95.4. And you can press the enter key or click the OK button. And then for the final grade, for example, we have 78.9. Okay. And then this is an example now of a message dialog. We have a default information message icon. We have the default text on the title bar, which is the message, and we have an OK button. So if you have noticed that I've displayed here the grade having multiple decimal places here. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Okay, another I will show you later on how to trim the number of decimal points into, let's say we have only 2 decimal places here. Okay, so that's the another way. And also, if you want to display the informations that the user have entered, okay, for instance, we have the student name here, the ID, the prelim grade, and then the midterm grade, the final, and then the final student grade. Okay, and also I want to show you an example of a message dialog without using an icon. Okay, so this one is a plain message icon. And then also, if you want to modify or use another type of icon, which is the error message icon. So I will also teach you that later. And the question message icon, or if you want to use the warning message icon, and also the default, which is the information message icon. But this time, we modify the text on the title bar. If you have noticed, by default, the text is message, but this time we changed it to student grade. And also we have this time around an output wherein we write the output inside of the text area. Okay, this is a text area. This one is actually editable. Okay, so using text area, you can specify the number of rows and columns. And then if, for example, if you want to press the enter key here, if you have noticed, number of rows changes, and then if you're going to use the backspace key, so it will go back to its original size. Okay, so this is an example of a text area. Text area wherein we attach it in our dialog box. I'll show you later how to do it. And also, I will show you also, I will teach you how to have a dialog box with a text area. Okay, I changed the background color, and then also I changed the font size, the font, and then the text color. Okay, so and also this one is a text area. For example, if you, this is still editable. If you press the enter key, for example, okay, so if you have noticed, unlike in our previous output statement, okay, using a text area, this time around, I provided here or attached here the vertical and the horizontal scroll bar. So if you have a text area, it's better that you attach also the scroll bar. Okay, so that's I will show you later how to do it, and also the output in a tabular format. Okay, so that's it. So basically, that's the main focus of our episode for today. Okay, so if you are ready, if you're excited about it, so let's get started. Let's do it from scratch. Okay, now, since this is for a beginner, I want to teach you how to create a program and how to make an outline. Okay, so normally, if you are working on a just a simple program for us to be organized. Okay, when I was a student, I used to do this thing. Okay, so I just want to share it with you. First is when I analyze the problem, of course, we need to have variables, and I've also discussed this already, the variable declarations. Okay, and why do we need the variables? Okay, so this time, since our program is about the student grade, so we will be needing a lot of storage, okay, for the grades and then for the names. Okay, so for instance, let's try to have what are the variables needed. So let's try to analyze the problem. The first is the first thing is we need to get the user input. I mean the name. Okay, so we will be using, for example, a string there, and then for example, we have a student name. So student name and then semicolon. What else? The student ID. So for example, that is an integer, and then let's try to use the student ID variable name. What else? For the prelim, midterm, and final grade, so let's try to use a double data type. For that, we have a prelim grade, for example, and then another a double for the midterm grade, and we have another double data type for a final grade. Okay, and then also if you're going to get the average now, so we'll store also the final grade. So we will be needing another variable for that. Let's say that there is a student grade now. This is the final grade. Okay, and it's still double. Okay, so far these are the variables that we will be needing. Okay, next, after we declare variables, our next step is to how are we going to get the user input? So that's an input statement. So the first output statement is we're going to prompt the user to enter the student name. Okay, now how are we going to do it? The first thing that we need to do is to what? To display the input dialog. How are we going to do that? Okay, so that is possible by using a show input dialog. Okay, now input dialog is actually a method. Okay, this is a static method of a JOptionPane class. Okay, so when I say static method, there's a lot of meaning of a static method. But in this episode, what I can tell you about static is that if you are using a static method, you cannot use it by just specifying the method name alone. Okay, but you can use it by preceding it the method name with its class name. And the class name of show input dialog is the JOptionPane. Okay, and then separated by dot. So that's how we use the static method, which is the show input dialog. Now, don't forget since we use the class, we need to import because this one is a class that belongs to a not a default package. So if you remember, the only default package in Java is the java.lang, wherein when I say default package, we don't need to import. Okay, but since the JOptionPane is under the javax.swing, which is not a default package, so we need to import. So if you're using Eclipse, it's very easy. You just have to hover in this word, for example, the JOptionPane, and then, for example, you have import JOptionPane here. So as you can see, we now have the import statement, javax.swing.JOptionPane. That's very simple, right? Okay, now using show input dialog inside of the parentheses, okay, you have to type in there, for example, enter student name. Okay, so that's it. Because the show input dialog argument is a string type. Okay, so let's try to run this one. Okay, so now this is an example now of an input dialog. If you type, for example, something there, for example, let's try KL. Okay, KL busy, one of our a new subscriber also. Hi to you, bro. Okay, so when you click the OK button, nothing will happen because what we only did here is that we just display the input dialog and we did nothing. Okay, so we need to store the student name. So we will be needing the variable that we have declared over here. So for example, the student name. So we will use that one. Okay, so how are we going to store the student name inside of our student name variable? So you just have to use the student name here. Student name is equal to JOptionPane that show input dialog, enter student name. Okay, as simple as that. Okay, so again, if you're going to run, it's just like the okay, the input dialog will appear, and then we have the enter a student name, and then for example, you type for example another new subscriber, Michi Maru, for example here. Okay, so when you click the OK button, okay, nothing will happen, but actually there's a an assignment statement that happened. Okay, so the for example, the Michimaru is now inside of the student name. Okay, so let's continue. What about for the student ID? Okay, for the student ID, so we will also use the show input dialog. Same thing here. Okay, so show input dialog and then enter student ID. For example, something like this. Okay, and then since the student ID is an integer, for example, and we will, since we use the integer variable here, okay, let me try. So student ID is equal to JOptionPane. Okay, now take note that there is a error over here. Okay, the change type of student ID to string. Okay, it's because unlike in line 17, okay, type. So we don't need to convert the string, okay, because by default that is already a string. But in here we are trying to assign a student ID to an integer variable. Since the whatever you type in the text box of an input dialog, by default that is a string, so we need to convert. So that's the next step that we're going to do. And how are we going to convert? Okay, we will be using another method. Okay, and that method, if you want to convert a string to integer, we will be using the parseInt method. Okay, so we will put this one inside of the parentheses of the parseInt method. ParseInt is a static method of what class? Of integer class. So again, since you are using a static method, again, every time we use the static method, which is parseInt, we will precede it with the class name, and the class name is the integer dot parseInt. Okay, so that's the syntax. Okay, so for example, if you want to display in two lines, so that is possible after the parenthesis here. Okay, you can just press the enter key, and then this one will go to the next. It's still a valid syntax for as long as at the end of the statement you put a semicolon, because in Java every statement must end with a semicolon. What are the statements that I'm talking about? These are variable declaration statements. So as you can see, there is a what we call semicolon. Okay. What first? Okay. Next, aside from the name and the student ID, we will be also needing another input statement for the prelim, midterm, and finals. Okay, so let me just copy this just to speed up the our discussion, and then we'll just have to change this one to, for example, we have a prelim grade. Okay, since prelim grade is a double, we cannot use a. And by the way, integer is a class within Java that lang. So that's why we don't need to import any package here. Okay, because integer belongs to a default package. But this time, we are now trying to get a value from the user, and we will assign it to a double data type. So we need to convert again the string to double. So integer here is not applicable, but instead we will be using the double class, which is also still part of the java.lang package. No need to import. Okay, so we will just change this one. Instead of parse int, we will be using parse double instead. Okay, so for example, enter prelim grade. Okay, so that's it. And then I'll just have to copy this one for the midterm, and then for the finals, for example. So I'll just have to change this one. So we have now midterm grade, and then this one is for the final grade. Okay, and then you just have to change the text here. So for example, this one is midterm, and then this one is for final grade. Okay, so these are now our input statements. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so before we run that, let me finish first. So after the input statements, what are we going to do now? We will now think of the process, or how are we going to solve the problem, okay, or the solution. So that's the next statement that we are going to do here. Okay, so how are we going to solve? How are we going to compute the final student grade? Okay, so of course, we will need to add and then divide it by 3, right? Okay, to get the average. Okay, and store it to a student grade, for example, variable. So that is possible by using, for example, student grade is equal to, we have a prelim grade. So prelim grade plus midterm grade plus final grade. Okay, and then if you are going to force that we need to add this 3 variable first before we divide to 3, so that's the syntax. We now have an assignment statement. Okay, prelim grade, midterm grade, final grade divided by 3, and then we will store in a student grade double variable. Okay, that's the process. That's how we solve the problem. Okay, now our next step is to display now the output. Okay, so for example, how are we going to display the output? If we get the user input using show input dialog of JOptionPane class within javax.swing package, how are we going to display the output? Okay, we have show message dialog in Java, okay, to display the output. Okay, but again, show message dialog is a static method of JOptionPane class. So again, whenever we use a static method, we need to include the class name separated by dot. Okay, by the way, how would you know if a certain, for example, this one, how would you know that that is a class, and how would you know that that is a method? Okay, by default, I mean, by convention, um, if you're going to write a method, if you're not going to name a method, okay, make sure that the first word is in lowercase. And then every first letter of each succeeding word should be capitalized. So that's the naming convention when it comes to method name. What about in class name? So in class name, for example, JOptionPane. Okay, take note. Even if you don't know that class, okay, you can actually easily guess that one is a class, because normally, by convention, the class begins with a capital letter. So when we say, let's say J option pane, we consider that as three words. So that is why the J, the O, and then the P here are all in capital letter, because every first letter of each word should be capitalized. Unlike in method, the first word should be all lowercase, and then only the second and succeeding letter of each word, first letter of each word should be capitalized. Okay, that's the little bit of trivia. Okay, so let's continue. How are we going to display the output? We use the JOptionPane that show message dialog. Okay, unlike in an input dialog, wherein we just enter here the one argument, which is the string. Okay, in a show message dialog, the first argument should always be null. Okay, it only means that this dialog box has a no parent window, and normally uh, it appears at the center of the screen. Okay, so that's the main reason. So it's you need to always use the null here as the first argument or parameter of the show message dialog. Okay, and then the second argument is the text to be displayed. For example, we want to display the grade. Okay, where did we store the student grade? In the student grade variable. So you can actually put here a student grade. Okay, something like this. Okay, so let's try now to display the output. Okay, let's try to run. Okay, so here we go. So enter a student name. Okay, enter student name. So this one. Okay, so for example, we will use Archangel. Okay, one of our new subscriber also. Hi to you, bro. Okay, click OK, and then enter a student ID. For example, 2021002. Okay, this is a student ID. Next, for the prelim grade, this one is, for example, a Dean's Lister, so 99.8. And then another midterm grade, 98.7. Okay. And then a final grade, 99.9. Okay. A very intelligent person. Okay. And then, so as you can see now, using only the variable name, a double data type here. Okay, so we have the final student grade, the average of the prelim, midterm, and final. So 99.4666668. Okay, so in our introduction, I've shown you how to. I've shown you another type of an output wherein we trim down this one by just having two decimal places. And how is that possible? Okay, so I will show you another output by copying this one. Okay, I will just put it here, but we will be needing another extra step. Okay, we will be needing another built-in class. In that class that I'm referring to is the DecimalFormat Class. Okay. So inside of the main method, okay, so I just put it here on top, decimal format. Okay, for example, let's think of an object name. So we're going to instantiate or create an object of decimal format for us to use the method of decimal format. Okay. For example, let's say F. Okay, any name. Okay, or my format. Okay, let's say f. Okay, is equal to new decimal format. Okay, then inside of the parentheses, you will specify here the number of the decimal places. For example, 0.00. So it means that if you want to use this type of format, so all our output should have at least two decimal places. Right? Then a semicolon. Okay, that's it. But take note, you need to import the decimal format class. Decimal format is a class within java.text. Okay, so you need to import like that. So far, we have now Java Swing, the JOptionPane, and the java.text.decimal format. Okay, so after we have instantiated or created an object from a decimal format, we can now use the method of decimal format, which is a format, and then we will attach the object name to the format method. And how are we going to do that? Okay, since we will format the value inside of the student grade, so we will use the format method, right? So format, and then we have an open and close parenthesis. Okay, so because we will format this variable, and then the main reason why we instantiated an object here, we will use this object name here. Okay, so it's like having a new format. Okay, your personalized format. Okay, so we specify f and then a dot and then format. Okay, so again, format is a method, built-in method of decimal format class. And since we have instantiated or created the f there, okay, so you can now we can now use this and attach this one with separated by that. So f dot format and student grade, and then observe what we after using that. We have again student name. Let's try Irandon, another Irandon Laureta, for example, another uh, new subscriber. Hello to you, bro. Okay. Enter student ID 2021003, for example. And then a prelim grade. We have what, a 96.7, 95.4, and then 89.7. Okay, so this is the first output in line number 35. Once you click the OK button, let me just okay, if you press the OK button, so this is now the output of the second output statement using the format method. Okay, which has a two decimal places now. Okay, so that's it. So let's try to go back, and then let me show you another example. Now, if you want to display all the inputs entered by the user, we can use this one. For example, we have a JOptionPane that show a message dialog. We have null as a first argument, and then the student name, the text, and then followed by the student name variable, and we have the string concatenation operator. Okay, so I just use multiple lines here just to have the an organized code here, but actually you can just all put this one all in one line. Okay, but you can, if you want to also follow my style here, so I just use multiple lines here. So you have student name, then student name plus, okay, student ID. Take note, I've used the \n, the prelim grade, the midterm, and the final, and then I've used the student grade here. Okay, instead of only using student grade, so we have now the all the information. Okay, so let's try to run this one for you to see the sample run. Again, we have KLBZ, for example, and then student name 2021 1 2 3 4. Okay, and then the prelim grade 90.7, 96.5, and then 78.6, So that's it. We have, so this one again is in line 35. This one is in output of line 36. Okay, that one. And this one is an output of the line number 37 up to 43. Okay, so if you have noticed, okay, let me just maximize this one for you to see again. So this one is an information message icon, and then the message is a default, and then OK button. Now, if you have noticed, okay, let me explain. This one, this is an output statement having two arguments, the null and then the variable. This one has how many arguments? So we have the first argument, and then the second argument, all the string here, since we have the string concatenation, so this one is considered to have, this one is just one argument, okay? So the message dialog can have either 2 or 4 arguments, okay? So let me show you the another example. Okay. Now, if you want to delete the icon, which is the default icon, which is the information message icon, okay. So this is an example of um, a message dialog having 4 arguments. Okay, the first argument is again null, and then the second argument, the text to be displayed. So these are all the second argument, and then we have the comma. Okay, the third argument is the text that can be found in the title bar. Let's say instead of message, I want to change it to student grade, so I can put like this, okay, as the third argument, and then comma, and another argument, the last argument is the type of icon. So if you want to change the icon, in this case, I'm going to delete. Okay, so just use the plain underscore message. This is a constant. Okay, you just need to use the JOptionPane that plain underscore message. Okay, so let me complete the other type of icon. For example, we have, aside from plain, uh, we have error. Okay, and then another, for example, we just need to change the last argument. So aside from error, in Java there is also a warning type of icon, and then another, we also have question underscore message icon. So we're just talking of the type of icon. Okay, aside from question, warning, error, plain. Okay, the last one, which is the default, is the information message icon. Okay, so since this one is the default, but since we changed the text on the title bar, so that's why we've used here 4 arguments instead of 2 arguments. Because if you use the 2 arguments here, again, okay, the default icon is the information message icon, but the text on the title bar is a message, okay, because that's the default. But if you want to change, so your option is to have 4 arguments. Okay, I hope that you've understood what I'm talking about. So first, second, a third, and then fourth argument. Okay, so let's try to run again for you to see the different icons again. So we have, for example, Kyle, um, I like, okay, for example, yeah, KYLE, Kyle, and then ISO, and then OK, and then student ID 2021 005. Okay, that's it. Prelim grade. So 90.7, 98.5, 87, for example, 78.4. Okay, so we have now the first, second output, the third, okay, and then this one is now the message dialog without the icon or the plain message icon. Okay, so this one is an error message icon, this one, okay, and another, this one is a warning, and the question message icon. Okay, and the information having 4 arguments since we changed the default here. Okay, So that's it. Okay. Okay. Another way of output is uh, the message dialog having the text area. Okay. How are we going to attach? Before that, we need to instantiate an object of text area. Okay. That is possible by using JTextArea. For example, we have my area is equal to new JTextArea. And then you need to specify the number of rows and columns. For example, 10 and let's say 20. 10 rows and 20 columns. Okay, that's it. Again, JTextArea is a class within javax.swing, so we need to import again. Okay, so we now have the JOptionPane there and then the JTextArea. Okay, and then we will now write the text inside of the text area. And how are we going to do that? Okay, that is possible by using the set text. Okay, for example, my area, which is the object name of our JTextArea, that set text. Set text is a built-in method of JTextArea. And then these are the contents, okay, of inside of our text area: the student name, the student ID, prelim, midterm, final, and then the student grade. Okay, and then after that, it's time to attach the JTextArea in our message dialog. So let me just copy this one, for example. So to attach that one, so here's the code: JOptionPane that show message dialog null, and then instead of since we already set the text inside of the text area, so we will be using the object name of my area instead of the text here. So that's the difference. So my area, the object name. Okay, so for example, that's it. Or again, if you want to use the for arguments, so let's say we want to change the text on the title bar. We have student grade, for example. Okay, there's a third argument. And then the last argument is what? Let me just put here. It should be 4 arguments. So JOptionPane dot plain underscore message. Okay, that's it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 arguments. Okay, so let's try again to run. So we have again, for example, we have okay, and then 2021 004 prelim 90.5, and then midterm 78.5, and then final grade 89.5. Okay, so the first output, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and then here we go. This is now an example of a dialog box with a text area inside. We attach that in our message dialog, and we change the default text on the title bar. We have now student grade, and then we omit the icon by using the JOptionPane.plain underscore message icon. So that's it. So the last output statement is the one having a text area with a background color. Okay, so let me show you that one. Since we will be using another text area and scroll bar, so let me instantiate another JTextArea object here. For example, JTextArea my area 2 is equal to new JTextArea. And then this time around we have 10, and then for example we have 45. Okay, 10 rows and 45 columns. And then in my example, I've shown you that there is a scroll bar, so that is possible using JScrollPane. For example, my scroll is equal to new JScrollPane. Okay, and then you need to attach the object name of JTextArea here. Okay, so that when we use the myScroll object, so we mean that this one has a text area and scroll bar at the same time. Okay, so that's it. So that's the meaning of that one. Again, JScrollPane is a class within javax.swing package, so we need to import again. We now have three classes within javax.swing and one decimal format inside of the java.text package. That's the import statement. And then over here, after we instantiated an object area and then the JScrollPane, so we will do also like this, the my area that set text, but this time we will be using the my area to the set text, and then we will attach that one inside of the dialog box. Okay, just to save a time, so I will just have to copy paste in here and then just explain the basics. Okay, the only difference here is that we've used now the what we have a title. We have let's say VSID21, okay, ITCS123 Java programming. So I've used the \T for tab here, and then just use the string concatenation operator. And then for the next line, for example, the second sem school year 2020-2021, also use the \N, another string concatenation operator. And then these are the headings: the student ID, the student name, okay, separated by the \T, okay, as you can see, prelim, midterm, final, and then the final grade. And another plus sign or string concatenation operator. This one now is the student ID, the student name, the variables, okay, the prelim grade, midterm, the final, and then the student grade, okay. And then if you're going now to change the font, okay, that is possible by using set font. So you need to specify the name of the text area, which is the my area 2, that set font, then open and close parentheses, and then new font. And then inside of the font, there are three arguments: the Tahoma, which is the font, and then comma, font that bold, the font style, and then the font size, for example, 18. And take note, don't forget to import the font. Font is under the Java AWT. Okay, and then also we have color. So under AWT, because if you want to change the background color of text area, that is very easy by using the object name of text area, which is my area 2, that set background, and then you just have to specify color that blue, for example. If you want to change the text color, okay, so use set foreground method and then color that white. And then what I did here is that just the same thing here. The only difference is that instead of using the object name of JTextArea, I've used the myScroll. Okay, so that I have a text area and scroll bar at the same time. So that is the technique. Okay, so now let's try to run the final output of our student grade. Okay, so let me just maximize this one. For example, for the student name, Kael, busy. Are you busy there? Enter student ID 2021-005. Okay. And then prelim grade, for example, 98.7. And then we have midterm grade 89.5. And then final grade 99.9. Okay. The first output statement, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, with error, with warning, with a question, with information, and then this one only with a text area but without a scroll bar. And then the last output is the message dialog with a text area with a background color, with a text color. So we increase the font size, the font, we change the font, which is Tahoma, and then the font style, which is bold. Okay. And again, since the text is only fit in the specified rows and columns, so that's why by default you cannot see the horizontal and vertical scroll bar here. But again, if you're going to press the enter key, okay, so once you are already in the lower part, so the what do you call this, the vertical scroll bar will automatically appear. The same thing with the horizontal scroll bar. So this is now the final output, and this is the source code for this episode. And that's all for today. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And as always, show your love through comments and favorites. God bless and thank you for watching.